Give him the worst jobs you've got. He was right that I wouldn't let Riley, or anyone else, slack on the job. But supervising him would take way too much of my energy, unless he'd changed a lot since he'd left home. Based on the fact that he was now leaving a third school, I doubted it. What about Vic? He's good with, no, I want you doing this. Damn. Vic was the most patient person I knew. He would be perfect for the job. Great. More fucking responsibility right when I'd hoped to finally have time to make some adjustments to some of our processes, including most of the record keeping. When is he getting in? Tonight sometime. He glanced at his watch. It'll be a few more hours, probably. You can get him started in the morning. When should I tell him to be in the barn? 6. If the boss wanted me to work Riley like anyone else, then one of the first lessons he needed to learn was that animals don't wait for us to lie around in bed. Lawson scoffed. I doubt that boy's been up before noon in years. This'll be good for him. It could be. But what would be better would be if his dad would stop putting the boy down and show some interest in him as a person instead of an asset like the cattle. Is that all, sir? Yes. He waved toward the door, signaling for me to go. But before I'd turned the knob, he spoke again. Actually, there's one more thing. I barely kept myself from rolling my eyes as I turned back to face him. Yes, sir. I want a report from you at the end of each day. I need to know how things are going with the boy and if you think he can actually do this. Run the ranch, sir? He nodded. Of course, he had to make this as time-consuming as possible, but I knew arguing was pointless. Will do, sir. I didn't point out that he could get a report by actually talking to his son each night. And there's a damn good chance he's on God only knows what drugs. Found some pills in his things last time he was home. He claimed they were a friend's, but we all know what that means. If you even think he's taking something, bring him right to me. I didn't want drugs on the ranch any more than Lawson did, especially considering the trouble we'd had right after Riley left for college, when one of the hands got involved in drug trafficking and ended up dead. That had been scary as shit. But if I found him with something, I'd handle it myself. I was far more likely to get the boy to listen than Lawson was. I dressed quickly the next morning, grabbed some breakfast, and then headed to the barn, carrying a thermos of coffee with me. I wanted to get a few things done before I had to deal with Riley, who would likely be at his brattiest, since he was being forced out of bed at dawn. When I stepped into the barn, I froze. Someone was leaning into Ginger's stall, and holy hell, his ass was perfection. Had Mr. Lawson hired someone new and not bothered to tell me? You're a good girl, aren't you? The man cooed at Ginger, who was one of our steadiest mares. She is. The man whirled around at the sound of my voice, and we both sucked in our breaths. Riley? Blake? I'd known he would have changed in the 4 years since I'd seen him. Once he'd left for his first attempt at college. He'd only returned once, and I'd been gone at a cattle show that week. But Jesus, I hadn't expected him to look like this. Perfect ass, tight jeans clinging to his thighs, T-shirt stretched across his shoulders that were much wider than they'd been at 18. He was still lean, but his muscles were more defined, and after some time on the ranch, they'd only be more so. And his dirty blonde hair would grow lighter like it was when he was a teenager. I'd known working with him wouldn't be easy, but I hadn't realized it would be as hard on my dick as it would be on my patience. And fuck if that wasn't messed up. He's my boss's son, and technically young enough to be mine. We were still staring at each other, and someone needed to break the silence. Well, I didn't expect you to be on time, much less early. He smiled, And damn.